Welcome to Mallett and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallett, who's not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
It was aliens. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't?
No.
When you were running last week.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a place down in the Barton Creek Greenbelt where there's a little wooden bench sitting there, and it says, have a seat and tell us what you see. And then for the word see, it had two big eyeballs. And it was 4 o'clock.
I was going to say, what time?
4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's pitch black. We've seen snakes everywhere, spiders, giant frogs. It was getting a little weird. And so we sit down on this bench and we got headlamps on. And we're kind of looking around at the ground. And then we look up in the trees and there's this giant, like, man-size, actually bigger than man-size alien hanging from one of the trees.
It was really that big?
It's man-size, yeah. It actually might be bigger than a man.
We'll have to post it on the page.
Yeah,
so people
it's
can see.
gigantic. And Holly and I both went, oh, beep. I got to cut that out. I have to bleep that. Sorry. Mom will get mad at me. But we literally did. We both went, oh, man, because it's just highlighted there by our headlamps. And then for about 15 minutes, we were kind of like looking off in the trees, trying to see what else was there.
Well,
What a crazy time.
I can't believe you didn't remember. It's been a long week, hasn't it?
It has been a long week, yeah. And my Michelleism is Michelle Lewis, who spent the past weekend drinking like a 20-year-old college student away from home for the first time.
Oh, I wish I drank like a 20-year-old. I was more of a security guard, a security of drinks, girls, and myself.
Kendall's bachelorette
party. What a scam. These bachelorette.
Oh, yeah.
Pinterest. I want to punch whoever invented Pinterest in the face.
Well, for everything.
Like
for
literally.
Weddings, all just parties, for what do you call it? Gender
reveal parties.
Gender reveals.
Is that even allowed anymore?
No, can you do that?
I think the issue around Kendall's wedding is I've had this epiphany this weekend is Kendall is as a young bride. She's 22. She'll be 22 soon in a couple of days. And she's the first of her friends that are getting married. And so these girls are always so used to mom and dad kind of paying for the hotel room or paying for dinner or whatever it is, or being at the drag down in San Marcos and, 59-cent drinks or whatever it is. And they're not used to like real adult prices and events. And
especially for something like that.
And when you plan something, you don't just plan it on the fly. Like I'm a planner.
Well, they do.
Yeah,
you
plan.
are a planner.
So we had some tears. We had a little bit of fight. I had somebody thrown out of the pool.
Because he was creeping on the girls.
He was creeping on the girls. I was watching for them putting things in their drinks. And these rooms were not cheap either. We stayed at the Statler in downtown Dallas. Yeah. So if anybody is thinking about going to Dallas, don't stay at the Statler if you're over 30 years of age. Literally.
What a world we live in where you got to make sure that people don't put stuff in your daughter's drinks.
It was insane. It was actually one of the girls we think did get roofied on Saturday night. And it was
what a weird world.
It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. But
but you had fun. She had fun.
She had a good time.
Yeah.
I had fun. I'm exhausted, and I feel like I had like day surgery, like recovering from that.
Yeah. Well, hey, we got a little bit of rain.
Oh, yeah, that was nice.
God, yeah. I didn't think we were going to get it, but man, it was nice.
I think the ground sizzled when it rained.
It did. Well, for the first 15 minutes, it just touched the ground and dried, dried. But I was thinking about, as we were watching the rain, we actually went out and stood in it because it's been so long since we had it, that, we're going through this drought. And I was thinking about how quickly things could turn around if we get a sizable rain event here. This drought could be over in one day.
Yeah, and because I think the city of Dripping Springs right now is under stage 3 water.
That's right.
And we talked about that a couple of episodes ago.
So, but I mean, when we first moved here in 2014, we had a 10 plus inch rain event in the Marble Falls area that completely filled Lake Travis in one day, one amount of rain, one rainstorm. So, and then there was, of course, the Wimberley flood.
Oh gosh!
In May of 2015. That was 13 inches of rain upstream, up where the Blanco River starts to feed. That
That was devastating.
It was devastating.
Totally devastating. Actually, a little bit of my hometown, some of the McCombs and the Charbas,
that's right.
Some of their family passed away. There was only like one survivor from that. And it took out those beautiful, beautiful cypress trees all along the river, took the homes out. I actually volunteered out there. I was so surprised. We were helping one particular man who had just moved in that day into his house. And we found his dishes, plates, salad plates, and bowls. Like when he had put them in the cabinet, we found them 4 houses away exactly like they were in the cabinet. It's like they just floated and they went down.
Wow.
But then it just became an issue of rescuing pictures. And I know that the Wimberley Library did a wonderful job of helping restore those. But yeah, you're right. I don't think a lot of people understand what flash floods here, what that means here in Texas.
No, there's. I read a story in Texas Monthly about the chain of events that happened with that Wimberley flood, and when the waters came up, and the police department and the firefighters, how they started to get involved when they realized what was happening. And the Blanco River at Wimberley normally goes at about 5 feet, and the gauges that measure how high the water is, they washed away at 40 feet. That river came up 35 feet and probably came up more, but the gauges were gone.
That was insane. We actually were in Dallas. It's kind of funny. We were in Dallas when that happened. Yeah. And my kids were home with their godmother there. She was watching him for the weekend, and just kind of watching this all unfold. And
well, there was, in that Texas Monthly article, there was a point where the Blanco River goes underneath the Fisher Store Bridge, and it's usually about 30 feet from the river to the top of the bridge. And one of the firefighters went to his chief and said, "Chief, are you following this?" And they looked at it on the news, and the water was over the bridge, over the Fisher Store Road.
Yeah,
bridge.
It took that. What bridge was it that it took out? Was it the?
It was the Fisher.
It was the
Fisher Store Bridge.
And so you had to drive, aside from the lives
take
lost.
it back. It was the Blanco, that bridge in Blanco, by the Blanco State Park.
It took the bridge out in Wimberley, where you had to then drive all the way around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. But I was thinking, what's the most amount of rain that states have had in 24 hours? And I did a little research, and there's this article, and it's record rainfall in every state, and it starts with Utah at number 49. I don't know what happened to state number 50, but so number 49, the highest amount of rain in 24 hours in Utah was at Deer Creek Dam in 1963. They got 5 inches. Like, that doesn't sound like much, right?
We can get that in an afternoon.
Their record. Yeah. And you go down, Delaware, 8.5 inches in 1975, Vermont, 9.92 inches in 1999. You go all the way down. I thought Oregon maybe would have had, because Oregon's gets quite a bit of rain. They're not. I think they're not. Oh yeah, there they are. Number 32. They got 11.77 inches. That's the record rainfall for Oregon. That surprised me. I thought it'd be higher than that.
I think it rains every day there, doesn't it?
I know, yeah. Well, I guess that's what it is. It doesn't all dump at once. It just goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks. But that's number 32. And then you go down, here's Washington State, 14.26 inches in 1986. And you get down here near the bottom.
This is record in one day.
This is 24 hours.
Okay.
So Oklahoma, 15.6. Illinois, 16.91. Massachusetts, 18. That one's surprising. Georgia, Louisiana. So the top 5, Florida, 23 inches. California, 25 inches. Alabama, 32 inches. Hawaii, 38 inches. And guess what number 1 is?
Texas.
42 inches.
That's probably all that they could
Probably all they could measure, yeah.
Maybe.
42 inches from a storm in Alvin, Texas, 1979. And then, but there's a town in Hawaii, Honolulu is challenging that, saying that they have an event where they've had 4 feet of rain in 24 hours in 2018. So that may change.
Well, even with all the rain that we had last night and some forecasted for later this week, Lake Travis is only 57.5% full.
I know.
And for those of you that don't, kind of new to this area, we really kind of measure our drought
by how many sandbars you could see in Lake Travis. It's true, isn't it? And people are starting to get now where the boat ramps don't reach all the way to the water. Yeah. They're having to extend the boat ramps, but there is. So the record for 24 hours in 24 hours for the total amount of rain is in the Reunion Islands in the South Pacific Ocean at a town called Folk. 71.8 inches in 24 hours. Can you imagine?
I wondered, I guess that's not rain. Tsunami's not rain. That's more of a water event, not a rain. So I was like, well, isn't there? Yeah. But interesting.
Crazy.
Folk.
Yeah.
Sorry,
right.
Mom.
No. FOC-FOC. But you were going to talk about stereotypes about Texas that need to be put to rest.
Don't you think that there are so many little, like we all wear cowboy hats, there's tumbleweeds. And then I think when we have people, especially my California extended family, my daughter-in-law's family, when they came here, they're all from Napa County. Uh-huh. And when they were driving around here, Dripping Springs, they were shocked. And they said that Dripping Springs reminded them so much of Napa County. Just so much. Just the landscape.
Before things got carried away, probably.
Yeah, but it's the rolling hills and
green trees. Yeah.
And they really kind of thought, but you go like out where my daughter lives, out kind of on the other side of 35, and it's back to flat.
It's true. It's more farmland, it seems like. Yeah. That's sort of where the break is from the hill country out to the East Texas flats, I guess.
I don't, and I think one of the other things is that we all have accents, and Steve Mallett tried to do his accent last time, and
Waxahachie,
the Waxahachie accent, and I have been told I do not have an accent, but I
bet you do.
I think I do it sometimes, but I think it's because when I grew up speaking Spanish and English, and so my accent was probably more Spanish or Mexican than Texan, and I just kind of grew up speaking. I can roll my R's like nobody's business.
The funny thing is, I don't think Gracie, my daughter Gracie, has an accent, but she says people in Michigan said, I'll say that to her all the time. I love your Texas accent.
I think Gracie has more of an accent than I do, even though she was born in California.
Yeah. But here's a couple stereotypes I came across. We all ride horses to school or work.
I do. I have it in the front. And by the way, anybody that's in this office, I have one particular parking spot, and stop parking in it.
Yes,
so I'll let you know.
Please. She will slash your tires.
It's my horse.
Spray paint your license plate. Yes. How about we all live on a farm or a ranch out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, no.
Or we own a ranch in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of Texas is just flat patch of sand.
We talked about that. Yeah.
God, that's crazy. And people don't know, Paladuro Canyon. Have you ever been to Paladuro Canyon? The mini Grand Canyon?
I love Paladuro Canyon. Have you ever been to the musical Texas there? It's
I've seen it, but I haven't been to it.
I've probably been maybe 10 plus times.
Yeah. It's about the history of Texas, right?
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's in the canyon, and they don't need any.
They play it on the wall of the canyon, right?
It's live. It's live action.
Oh, I thought they played it on.
No, it's live action, and there's horses in the back and Indians.
I guess what I've seen is like something put up on the wall as a backdrop.
And then there's fireworks, but they don't need any artificial acoustics. It's all the way the canyon is. Yeah. It's amazing, but it's hotter than Hades.
Yeah, it does get pretty hot out there. I've done a couple of 50Ks there.
That's beautiful. And Judge Roy Bean's place, I've been out there. You got to have that kind of, and you got to go eat it. I think it's Big Tex.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where they have the giant steak. If you eat the whole thing, it's free. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Paladuro is funny to me because you drive through all that farmland and it's just flat, maybe slightly rolling. And then you come around a corner and it just drops into this big, huge canyon.
It's gorgeous out there. Yeah. Gorgeous.
Everybody thinks we're all cowboys or cowgirls.
I am a cowgirl.
Well, you are a cowgirl. We all survive on chicken fried steak and mashed potatoes.
I do not like mashed potatoes.
I like mashed potatoes. I don't like chicken fried steak.
I will. My favorite chicken fried steak is at Evangeline's on Brody, and it's a Cajun food restaurant,
been there, yeah.
and they have Cajun chicken fried steak, and that is the only chicken fried steak
Is it
I'll eat.
spicy?
No, it's
Cajun's usually spicy, isn't it?
Well, it kind of has flavor, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has
What
flavor.
would you say the official Texas food would be?
I would think people associate, like, we all eat steak and baked potatoes and I don't know. But see, I grew up kind of down on the coast.
More Mexican food.
Mexican food for sure. For me, like, Mexican is good hometown, but like I like some fried okra and fried okra. Can we go to Luby's? Luby's was my favorite
Luby's
place
has the
to
best
eat.
fried okra. How about we all became wealthy after taking over our grandpa's oil business?
Oh, I'm just rolling in it right now. That's why I'm here with you every day.
I'm just like one oil royalty check, please. This one, I think we're all a bunch of dumb, illiterate hillbillies.
I am.
We're not.
I'm just dyslexic. So.
You can tell some of these people that come from out of state. It's been a few years ago, but I met this guy, and he was a bus driver in San Francisco. Super nice guy. And they had bought a house like 30 years ago in San Francisco, for like probably $150,000 or something. And he came here, and he was talking about how he was like a real estate mogul. And I was like, I just was biting my tongue, but I was basically like, you don't know anything about real estate. He's like, I'm getting my license. I'm going to change this town. I'm like, you basically bought a house 30 years ago and it appreciated, and then you sold it for $2 million. That doesn't make you a real estate mogul.
Buckle up, buddy. It's a fun game. Come on. The water's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let me show you a little bit. But yeah, people come here all the time and think that they're going to show us what's what.
Yeah, go ahead. Show me what's what.
Yeah, show me what's what.
I wrestled 12 girls this weekend. You go ahead. I'll buck up to anybody. Show me what's what.
And got a guy kicked out of the
right.
hotel. How about all Texans are diehard football fans? I saw that one and I was like, oh,
that one may be true.
That might be true.
I mean, you know what? I have to say, in all honesty, I am more of a high school and college football fan now because I'm so grossed out by what the NFL has done, like politicized all of
everything.
Yeah, everything. And so we're the biggest fair weather Dallas Cowboy fans out there.
Yeah.
And when my cussing skills hit the max, it's watching a Dallas Cowboy game.
Yeah.
But I would love to watch a UT game over a Cowboy game.
I think even the least football fan in Texas probably watches some football sometimes, or at least the highlights.
You know what I'm not a fan of, like big time not a fan of, which has become a big sport here in Austin, is soccer. It is so boring to me.
Well, if you know the game, if you understand the game.
I know the game. I hate it. It's boring.
Oh, okay. Well, but it does. I think it can be interesting, but they're very long games. That's one thing.
Boring. Well, speaking of coaches, right?
Yeah, Coach Waite.
Coach Waite, like the infamous, probably the most infamous person in...
Not infamous.
Infamous.
He's not infamous.
Famous. Well, outside of Drip.
Well, infamous means you're famous for bad reasons. Like you're infamous.
I'm
Michelle
an idiot.
Lewis is infamous in Dripping Springs. No, he's famous. I was thinking I'm a little nervous about having him in here because he's kind of an icon.
Well, now I just make up like real words and I use them out of context.
That's okay. No, Coach, you're not infamous. We love
well known for bad quality or dead. What? Or
dead.
deed. Oh, deed. I don't have my glasses on.
You're just hacking up the English language over here.
I'm the infamous Michelle Lewis.
The infamous Michelle. I'm going to get a T-shirt made.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so tired. But I'm excited to have Coach on.
Yeah, me too.
He's a lovely guy. We used to sit next to him, our season tickets at the old stadium. We used to sit next to him and watch him and his beautiful wife do their stats all the time. Yeah. And he would give me, he'd tell me to calm down, Mama, calm down. When Tate was doing something.
Yeah, he's sort of an amateur historian, knows probably more about Dripping Springs than anybody else alive.
Absolutely. And now I'm just more like micro obsessing about all these years I've used infamous in the wrong
way. Well, we're going to take a little break and get the infamous, non-infamous Carl Waite in here. So sit tight. We'll talk to you in a second.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team. Serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Well, welcome back. We're here with Carl Waits, Coach Carl. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's the good morning coach.
Is that what everybody calls you? The good morning
Good
coach?
morning, coach.
Well, they'll say that, yes.
Yeah. I saw you on TV that was your thing. You walked in the bus barn and said good morning to somebody, and they recorded you doing that.
Yes. Yeah. They were trying to get everything.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know, you're kind of an icon here in town.
Well, I just lived my life.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So when did you move to Dripping Springs?
My wife and I and small son came here in 1965 to start the football season.
Oh, wow.
About August of 65.
And where did you move from?
From Rogers, Texas. That's where I grew up.
Where's Rogers? Where's that?
It's about 13 miles east of Temple, between Temple and Cameron, Texas.
Okay.
Just a little small town.
So you're Texas born and raised.
I am indeed, and I've only left Texas one time in my life.
Really?
What was that for?
We played in the national softball tournament in Orlando in 1997, I believe it was. And that's the first and last plane trip, too, I think.
Is that right?
Goodness.
Oh, my gosh. Jeez. Wow.
I'm way back in the old school days.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, there's so many new people here that they don't really understand what this town's all about and the history here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Sam Houston State, at that time Teachers College.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now it's Sam Houston University.
Oh, yeah. What'd you study?
I had business administration, and then I got just an education degree too, and my master's, and picked up a few more teaching. My advice from others was you need to get as many teaching fields as you could if you're going to go into coaching and have the choices. So I went straight through and got my master's, because that was another thing. I was a little young when I went to college and did my student teaching. Oh, golly, these kids are no younger than I am.
How old were you?
Yeah.
How old were you when you started? When you were in college?
17.
17. Yeah. So did you play sports when you were in high school? And what did you play?
Well, it's a small school. We played them all. We, of course, started with football and went into basketball. I came from a little two-room school and county schools is the way it was in those days. So went the first 7 grades out there. Never heard of football or basketball. Baseball, my dad was a baseball player, so that was the only thing big with us. And so you go out to Rogers, and they'll come into your room and say, well, who wants to play 8th grade football? And everybody raised their hand. We didn't know what was getting into. So I ended up playing football and basketball and ran a little track. I wasn't very fast, so I didn't. And I was more into baseball, and those kind of came in at the same time in the school year. So,
what year did you graduate from college?
1963 was my bachelor years, and then I graduated in 1965 with my master's.
So what was it between 65 and 69 when you became the coach here? What were you doing then?
I was the assistant football coach here when I came in 65.
Oh.
Coach Rippey was the only other coach. He and I had the whole sports scene, and I was head basketball coach and head track coach, and he had football, head baseball, and all of the girls' sports.
Okay. So you graduated from college, and your first job was
here.
In Dripping?
Yeah, in Dripping Springs.
How'd you find out about the job?
Well, one of my it's kind of like when I was going to school, picking out of college. I wanted to be far enough from home that I could say I was away from home, and close enough I could get back. And that 100-mile radius was kind of my outstretch, and you just look through all the job openings, and I saw one at Dripping Springs, and so I didn't even know where it was at.
Like, that sounds purty.
Yeah.
and all I knew was it was out near Lake Travis. And so when I came down to apply for the job, I got to crossroads at Oak Hill, and it had Lake Travis. And so I took off that direction. And I drove and didn't see any houses or anything else. And I finally got to Johnson Trading Post out at Bee Caves.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I said, "Hey, I think I'm lost. How do I get to Dripping Springs?" Well, there's this little back road right over there. And so I took it, and I began to think, if this is the only way I can get to Dripping Springs, I don't know if I want this job or not. Only to find out if I took 290, I'd have been there in 15 minutes and would have had time to eat before the
interview.
School board. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So back in those days, did you drove here to see what kind of job openings they had, or was there a paper? How did you find out?
Just you look up. There's a paper that would list all the job openings in the state, and you could sign up for that. And so, there's just a lot of little schools around, but I didn't want to get any closer to Rogers than that, you know, for whatever reason. But you know, you never think you'll stay in one spot the whole time, but I didn't find any reason to leave. So
that's great.
And I wasn't looking for other places like that. So we settled in and couldn't find a place to live.
Oh, I was going to ask you, like, where did you live?
They allowed us to, Mr. Knaut was the superintendent, and he allowed us to put a mobile home right behind the Masonic Lodge. That was school property.
On Old Mercer.
Yeah.
I mean, Mercer and Old Fitzhugh. Yeah.
Old Fitzhugh. And it was school property. And so we lived there 20 years in mobile home before we moved out to Woods Loop, and have been there ever since.
Oh,
wow, that's cool.
So did your wife grow up in Rogers as well?
Yes.
So was she your high school sweetheart?
Well, yes.
Oh.
I started going with her when she was in the 8th grade, and I was a senior, but I should have been a junior. I skipped a grade in the little 2-room school, and so it put me a year ahead of where I need to be.
2-room school. That's funny. So you come here in 65 and you're the assistant coach.
Assistant football, yes.
Football. And then 69, you became the head coach.
Yeah, Coach Ribby decided he wanted to ranch a little bit.
Yeah. Was that Pug?
Yes. That's
okay.
Pug.
Yeah. So some people drive down Creek Road. There's a road, Pug Rippey, named after him.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Is he still around?
Yes. He still runs Rippey Ranch Supply.
Really?
He and his wife own Rippey Ranch Supply.
Oh, I
and
didn't
have
know that.
for a long, long time.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And so, he's not in good as health as he needs to be now, but he still comes into town from time to time.
Yeah.
To take care of business.
So what was it like coaching football? So you coached from 69 to 81.
Yes.
Head coach.
Yes.
What was it like coaching back then?
Well, it was really great.
Yeah.
I kind of took stock of myself back in the spring, having been here 80 years, and would I want to start my life over here at the way things are now? And it didn't take long to say no.
Yeah.
Because the kids today they're just employees of the sport. And so.
That's an interesting take on that.
I was going to say, what do you mean by that, employees of the sport?
Well, they have to work for that particular job, you know,
right.
and they're coerced into doing the select and doing all these other things that you wouldn't do. Back in the day when I was coaching and playing, you just played to have fun.
It was a game.
Just had a game, and we'd you'd look forward to the football season. When it was over with, that was it.
Yeah,
you didn't think about it. You look forward to basketball, and then you look forward to the next one. And if you were any type of player you thought you had a future beyond, you do all that on your own.
Sure. So,
but today, the kids from 5 years old, they get on select teams, and then they break their parents. I've read articles where parents have spent anywhere from 20 to 40% of their income each year on their select team. Yeah, I had a son that went through a lot of that with 2 girls. Yeah.
Do you think that's because college has gotten so expensive, and a lot of parents think that maybe a path to them going to college is that they get a scholarship?
Yes, and what they don't know is most of the scholarships are not very good.
Right.
only football gets a full scholarship, and really you're only guaranteed that for 1 year, and you have to keep re-earning it.
Yeah.
And if they're wanting some other player, you're out.
You're out, yeah. You got to pay that
But
tuition.
yes, they think, well, and coaches, high school coaches have been responsible for that part of it too. I know when I was still coaching in middle school after I'd gotten through with high school, we got in a big-time girls coach. And I had my 6th grade PE classes, and their junior high coach, he sent the junior high coaches in there to tell the kids, if you don't play in this little basketball league, you're not going to get to be on the team.
Oh, my gosh.
And I could not believe it. It was just mind-boggling that they wouldn't give them a chance to even participate. And that's kind of the way it caught on, that if the parents feel like if they're not on these select teams, they don't have a chance to play.
Right.
And that's well and good. I don't have any particular problem with it, but what is happening in our schools is we're not doing the rest of them any favors by not having a good intramural program where you teach these kids, because the way I look at it, high school is preparing you for your adulthood.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the same way with sports. You can play sports till you die, I guess,
Right.
on most sports. And yet we don't give those kids an opportunity to get in, like those sports.
Right.
And they know that they may not be good enough to be on the varsity of the football team or basketball, but they could still play that sport just enough to keep them interested when they get into it.
And they learn so many things from being in these organized sports,
yes,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
Communication
New
and
friends,
working with people and making friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the great things that come out of.
Yeah, they're all pluses, and we just don't deal with the kids not getting to play that well. The high school needs to have programs similar to the way that our athletic sports go anyway.
Yeah.
I think one of the questions that I had for you was, what do you think has changed the most since you were coaching? Is it the game, the parents, or the athletes, the students?
Well, you're always going to have the parents. That's never going to change. I don't think.
Did you struggle with them back in the 60s and 70s?
My wife had to sit in the stands and listen to the fans rail on me and the other coaches or whatever. So that's not. And the kids, they've always worked just as hard as they can work. Because they like to do those.
So
things.
it's the game. It's like what you were saying. It's the game.
Well, it's the surrounding part of the game. I just don't think they have they may think they're having fun, but I don't think they're having as much fun as they'd like, especially if they're not one of them's getting to play. Because you go through the same workouts.
Yeah.
That 40 or 50 kids that don't get to play on Friday nights, you still go through all those workouts. And so,
wow. What was your favorite part of coaching back then?
It's just being around the kids.
Yeah.
It's just, I've made some great friends over the years and still have them. And that's what's great. But just being around them and the way they went about things.
Yeah.
Pulling that energy from them onto you.
Oh, yeah.
And you weren't a whole lot older than them when you started.
No,
as
I was
head coach.
about 4 years older than the seniors when I first came here.
Yeah.
And you're still not very much older than them at the same time.
I bet you've seen some interesting outfit changes throughout the years, especially through Dripping Springs, from bell bottoms to neon colors to what we're experiencing now, which is barely there clothing. There's not even dress codes anymore. It's like, where have we gone?
Yeah, I can remember. Well, it was that knit, you wore knit and all this other stuff, and bell bottoms. But I can remember when white shoes came in. I had a football player that he was, and I was going to be strict on all this, so they couldn't wear white shoes. Nobody else had white shoes. And I made him paint them black to get to play everything. But then within a couple of years, everybody was wearing white shoes.
Yeah.
He was just ahead of his time. And I didn't recognize that fact. But
speaking of that, how has the equipment changed since you first started in the 60s to even you playing to where the equipment is now as far as safety equipment, helmets and whatnot?
there's no similarity. I don't think all the equipment is so much better. I mean, and we would have to use the same equipment for years and years.
Uh-huh.
But the helmets were not that good. You didn't have that much of a face mask, and the pads, you had to wear all the pads and everything else. And it's just the changes in that style is really changed all the way.
And so when you were coaching, was the only school where the admin building is?
Correct.
Now? And did you play on the field to the west there, where the track is?
Where the little track is.
That was the main football field.
That was the only football
field.
Yeah.
Wow.
So where did y'all play your actual games? Was that the practice field?
No, that was the field, and you practiced on that field.
So where did were there bleachers and things like that?
On the home side, there was a set of bleachers, permanent bleachers, but the other side was part of the baseball field, and so we would bring in not permanent but temporary bleachers for the opponents to sit on the side. And there were times when before I came here that they didn't have any bleachers at all.
So it's bring your own chair.
And that was before. That was probably those aluminum folding.
That was before then. Well, most of them would just park their cars around the cable that was restricting you, and then they'd sit on the hood of the cars.
That's funny.
But one of the funny things is before I came to, and before they had the bleachers, the visitor side are supposed to be able to warrant half of the bleacher space. And Bastrop, we were playing Bastrop here, and they wrote a request that they wanted half of the bleachers. Superintendent wrote them back. Well, you can have them all because we don't have any.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Is there any moment or memory that you have that just really kind of stands out within your coaching career?
I don't know.
I'm sure you have tons of them.
Well, I just had some great kids that when we won our championships and so forth and played in the playoffs and so forth. But mainly, to me, it was just being around them all the time and getting to enjoy their enjoyment of everything.
What championships did you win?
Well, when I was coaching, we won 1970. We won the football district. We'd moved up to Class A, and when we started off with Class B, and so A was the next step up. And then while we were in A, we also had a really good team in 73 and 75 that we won district. And I was able to win a basketball championship in 68, 69.
Wow.
Poe Shelton, who was a longtime basketball coach here too, he was my main man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been a champion basketball coach if it wasn't for him.
I heard that he holds the record, right, for the stats, or is that record still stand now?
No, it's not he. It's his brother Bobby.
Bob Shelton,
Bob Shelton that coached at Buda and Hayes for all those years. He's the one who holds all the basketball records. Poe is up there in a lot of categories because he was a good free throw shooter.
Very athletic family, huh?
Yeah, yes, and they would live in the gym when it took that. They were true gym rats, as we called them in the day.
That's funny.
Because they'd live in the gym and play and play and play.
Is that the Rob Shelton that is named the road out here?
That's Poe's dad. He was a superintendent here for a long time and everything.
Wow, that's great.
So you know so much about Dripping Springs. You know so much about Dripping Springs. You actually wrote a book about Dripping Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to do it for a project for my 6th grade history classes, and it evolved into a book before I got through. I didn't start out saying I'm going to write a book on Dripping Springs. It was just a matter of I couldn't put it all on a film, so I just started putting it down in print, and it just got larger and larger.
Yeah, the complete history of Dripping Springs, Texas. So, how long did it take you to put all that together?
About 11 or 12 years.
Oh my goodness.
Jeez,
that was a long class.
Yeah.
I started doing that project in about 93, and I actually published the book in 2003, but I would want to know a little bit more about whatever I was doing, and that took more and more. And I was having to do it on just free days and Saturday sometime when the courthouse or the library was open that I could visit in San Marcos. That's where most of the material came from.
And what did you? Are there you got it out of other books, or what were you reading to get this history?
Well, I was talking to a lot of people, and then to get a lot of the history, I went to the library and they had these copies of newspapers that you had just thumb through on film, and then I just write down anything there that had to do with Dripping Springs, and kind of built it from there.
Those kids don't know anything these days, anything about going to the library and looking on microfiche, and it's like little teeny
I
tiny.
know, yeah. You just Google it and that pops right up.
I wish it was that easy.
So how did you get your hands on, did you get your hands on the original survey of Dripping Springs? Like, so explain to me the P.A. Smith survey and like the complete history of Dripping Springs and the P.A. Smith survey. So tell me a little bit of history about that.
Well, I was just trying to limit what I was going to cover in Dripping Springs. And then when I found out, when you start looking at surveys, it gives you what survey this property comes from. And it was the P.A. Smith survey, and it was a 2 square mile area. And so I just settled on that 2 square and didn't go outside, because the way I was going, I'd take off and go to Henley or whatever if I didn't limit myself. And all of Dripping Springs, especially at that time, fell within the P.A. Smith survey.
Ah, that's interesting. And so in your book, you explain about how from this main survey, how Dripping Springs was broken up into all these little subsects. And kind of the center was, like what you were saying, what we known as Mercer Street, and just kind of went out from there, the Masonic Lodge, which was a school prior to that.
And a church.
And gosh, we've talked about this a couple times on the podcast about this building used to be that, and it used to be this. And
so the center of town used to be Mercer, right?
That's exactly right.
And 290, where Mercer is now, there wasn't a separate 290. That was that was the road through town, right?
Yeah, it came down off of Wallace Mountain the first time, and it would go off of Spring Street, which is what is 290 now.
Yeah.
And then it'd cut back on San Marcos and then go down Mercer.
Okay.
And have to cross. Didn't have a bridge at that time either. Had to go around by Garnett's.
Oh, yeah.
And come in by where the City Hall is now to go over to Creek Road.
Okay.
That's the way they went to Johnson City and Fredericksburg at the time.
Was Creek Road.
Okay. Yes, and it cut back out by Henley. But and then another time, the next time when it was Highway 20 and I think 292, it came down Wallace Mountain and then made the little loop by the Triangle and come straight down Mercer too. And all that they kept trying. They had to keep widening a little bit of the road, and then finally they came. 290 went straight down the highway and kept going. And
so back in '65, when you moved here, Mercer Street, a lot of those buildings were there then. The ones that are on Mercer now.
Yes, most of those were built in 1937.
Okay,
because that's when the main road came through.
Okay,
and made it the main street.
Right.
And so everything that was a business jumped on that street.
Yeah, and so where Buddy's is now, was that a gas station?
Yes, it was a mobile gas station.
Okay, and did they have like a little general store there, or where did you get groceries back then?
Well, it used to be the old post office there. That building
across
was built,
the street.
Yeah, it was built in 1952 as Glosson Grocery.
Okay,
and so that's where we got our groceries till they closed in 1980, somewhere near 80, and then we started going to H-E-B in Oak Hill.
Oh, yeah.
But, all those buildings, just about every one of them, and if you look on them, somewhere it gives you the date they were built, but most of them was 37 and 1940, right along in there.
Oh, wow.
And they all were built. Prior to that, they were all wooden buildings, and most of them burned down or fell down.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What other significant buildings were there in that little section? The businesses or buildings?
Well, what do you call it? Right across the street, which should have been a 2-story building. That was the first. That was built by A.L. Davis, and it was a mercantile store where they had everything in there you could.
Is that the one to the west of what used to be the post office? Across from Mazama?
Yeah, it's right beside Mazama.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and the other one is right across. It was built in 1906, and it was a story and a half, and it was a mercantile store. They had no way of cooling anything, so they had a little bit of everything, but your perishables you better buy in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
Or they would perish.
Yeah. So we had heard stories that the Dripping Springs was just down there where the bridge is by the City Hall.
Right.
That people used to store food in the springs to keep it cool.
For sure, there were all springs there, and for sure they would put their milk. They would come in and shop and do whatever or work all day, but they'd buy their milk and then they'd take it down there. And I always thought that that's where the Milk House Springs was, but the Milk House Springs is actually about another quarter of a mile beyond 290.
Beyond 290, okay.
Yeah, about the only way, if you can wade down through there, I guess you can get there, but the only way I ever was shown to get there was that rock house right there on the right on Creek Road as you turn.
Yeah.
It used to be Mr. Crow's house. He built it, and you go down a little deal down there, and it's got a little cave-like deal where they call it Milk House Springs because people put so much milk
store
down
milk in there.
But anywhere there was a cool spring, they would, they did that.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't spoil before they got home.
Yeah. When I hear stories like that, our lives are so easy.
Well, I was going to say, we hear so much about the negative side of the growth of Dripping Springs. And can you think of a positive side of what the growth is besides having H-E-B just right across the street, or having a Home Depot? But I mean, can you think of something positive here about that, of all the explosive growth that has happened?
Well, not me from a standpoint. I've always been a small town boy. Grew up in one that wasn't any bigger than Dripping when we got here. But the good point is we're not having to drive to Austin for our groceries and our Home Depot.
Everybody, amen. Collectively, amen.
We're just waiting for a Walmart or something like that.
Oh, bless.
Yeah. I don't necessarily want that, but it's probably coming.
Well, at one time, I don't know if it was Walmart, I think it was Target that they were supposed to build. One rumor was out at Henley in that big square.
Yeah, I heard
when
that.
you to 165, but it hadn't grown fast enough for that to take place yet. It'll be a few years.
Yeah. Do you
and
remember?
Water.
Oh, I know. Do you remember? It was probably 15 years ago. I think it was John Thompson. There was a big open field where the Burger King and the CVS is now over by Polo Club.
Right.
There was a 10-acre field, and there was a sign up there, and somebody put Walmart coming soon. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Boy, the people just went nuts. They were like, "No, we're not don't bring Walmart." Wow. What do you miss about the old town the most?
Well, really, the old town is still in the middle of town if you pay attention to it, and you've known it's there all the time. But it's like everybody else. You just learn to adapt. You may not like all the. I can't understand how people can live 8 feet apart from each other.
Yeah.
But other than that, we've adapted.
Yeah.
It's just nerve-wracking for the traffic part now because you just wait 2 or 3 light changes
every
you get
time.
through.
Yeah. Do you remember how big the graduating class was back when you started coaching?
The first year, I think it was Marvin Myers and that group. But
was it Marvin?
they were it was about 27 in that class.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
wow.
We want Marvin on this podcast too, so we're going to get him on.
Yeah,
here too.
Marvin's a good one. He was a senior the first year I came, and he was a good athlete too.
Yeah,
he played all the sports and did everything.
26 people.
27,
26 or 27, right along
You
there.
have that many kids or more in a classroom nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know. Do you know how many kids graduated last year?
I
A
think
couple
that
hundred.
when Kendall graduated, it was at the time, obviously, it was just explosive growth each year. Oh gosh, I want to say it was 400 and something. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
I bet there wasn't even 400 kids in the whole school.
No, there wasn't. When I came here in '65, there was about 300 in the total system, and there was 100 or maybe a little less than 100 in high school.
Wow.
And talking about football, I think we had maybe 18 to 20 out for football.
Wow.
So we only had the one team, the varsity team.
So now you're for the last couple of years, you've been driving the bus for these kids. So you're seeing all sorts of times.
Well, you've seen it.
When I retired in '95 from teaching, I was getting very close to my third generation of people. I said, this is enough of that.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with my bus. I've been on my same route since '95, I think. And so I'm driving kids of kids of kids.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm getting close to the third generation on that route too.
Goodness. So what is your route here in Dripping?
It goes on now what is it?
You know it so
Martin
well.
Road.
Martin.
I get on Martin Road and then hit Windy Hills.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been on that particular route. It deviates according to how much else I need to pick up, and it's grown out there to where we used to have one route and you wouldn't fill up a bus, but now we go an elementary route and then a middle school, high school route, and we get 35 to 40 each time.
Lake Travis used to be a part of Dripping.
Oh, yes.
So it used to have to drive. I mean, these bus drivers years ago used to have to drive an hour to go get these kids.
Pete Lawson, he drove his bus, and it would turn around at Spicewood.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my gosh.
At the bridge, the big bridge at Spicewood. And then we had Harvey Goslin, who his bus route then went to the dam and turned around and came back.
That's fun.
And so they'd have to leave way early in the morning. Of course, schools didn't start till 8:30, so we can get them all in. But yeah, it was crazy.
What year
and
was
we only
that?
Had that was '65.
Well, what year did Lake Travis?
Split?
Yeah, split.
81.
81. Okay.
Oh, okay. That was the year you
were like, I'm out of here.
I had the last football class that included both Lake Travis and Dripping Springs.
Okay. Wow.
And they split and went over to their school.
Wow. So you have worked for Dripping Springs ISD for 54 years?
57 now.
57 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What an amazing feat. Wow.
And
I've been healthy. That's one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, tell me about your family. You raised your kids here?
We have one son.
One son.
Yes.
And you have two granddaughters? Is that what you
Two
said?
granddaughters, and both of them are teachers. And,
Are they
and
really?
my daughter-in-law is a teacher, and my son is a very good journalist. He worked for the newspaper business for a lot of years, and then he got married, and then continued. He was a sports editor for Temple Daily Telegram, but after the first child came along, a sports writer or anybody else in the newspaper, you don't put the paper to bed until about 1 o'clock in the morning. So she let him know that he wasn't going to be. He's going to stay there with some of the crying kids some of the time. So he's now working at Scott and White there in Temple, and has been for a long, long time. But he still writes a column for the Temple Daily News, and he's been picked as the #1 columnist in the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And runner-up most of the other years.
And
so he's good. I wish I was as good as he.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, you write
Century.
sports writer for the
Yeah, I
Century
do, but
News.
I'm not. He can do it on the spur of the moment. It
yeah.
takes. I have to work for a weekly paper
is
because it
that
takes
right?
me that time long to put everything together and try to get it going.
Did they ask you to do that, or did you want to do it?
What, the Century News?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I started writing for the papers because we weren't getting very much publicity for our teams or anything else. And the first I started writing was back in the 70s, I guess. I wrote for Lake Travis, had a little paper. So I started putting those in. And then when that went, I went from there to the Onion Creek Free Press. And then I forget which, Mr. Crow had a Springer for a while, and I wrote there. And I just kept moving up to another newspaper that was available because I just think the kids need a an opportunity to see their name in print. That's what I try. I tell them I'm just a scrapbook writer because I always collected my scrapbooks, and in time I had my name in it, I'd cut it out and put it in there.
I still have newspaper clippings from when I ran track in high school. Yeah, I know exactly where they are.
Well, you put Dripping Springs on the map. You let other people know about our kids here, and that's definitely an accomplishment.
Austin paper got to where it was nothing but UT and not even really local schools there. We had some good sports writers back in the day that was still covering all the local schools around, and that was great. And they'd spend pages doing it, but not anymore. You find out about everything except the local schools, and they're the ones that need it. Because they're the one that will read it and keep it.
So you've been doing this a long time, 57 years. What motivates you to get out of bed every day to do this? So many people, when they get to your age, they just go, kind of slow down, but you're still getting out.
Well, I like being able to be in a routine.
Yeah.
And I don't look forward to 4:30 alarm clock to get on the bus to get ready to get for the bus by 5:30. But once you're up, it's just like when I was playing golf. I didn't want to go out there, but once you get there and start playing, then you enjoy what you're doing. That's kind of the way it works for me. And as long as I'm healthy, and I just see so many other people that when they retire and quit doing what they'd love to do, they end up dying. So I don't want to be in that shape yet.
I don't blame you. That's true.
And I'm capable of doing it, and we're definitely in need of bus drivers. So that's a good deal.
Yeah. They're paying $400,000 a year to be a bus driver now because nobody wants to be a bus driver.
Coach looks at you like, what?
Well, that's starting pay.
Yeah. Do you remember what they paid you when you first became the head coach?
Oh, yeah. When I first took the job here, minimum of teachers was $4,200. I was guaranteed another $300 because I had my master's degree.
Okay. And
then I got $300 for being the assistant coach and all the other coaching. Okay. And then when I moved up, when Coach Rippey quit and I moved up, I got the $500 that he did for being the head coach and everything else.
Well, you felt like you won the lottery, didn't you?
So about $6,000 a year.
A little less.
No, $4,800 a year.
Oh, but with all the stipends.
Yeah.
Wow.
Otherwise, you'd got $4,200 because we were.
Goodness gracious.
But we didn't. It didn't seem any harder to make it through the year. I think I
put that much in my gas tank last week.
I know, isn't that true? Yeah.
I have to say that you are such a treasure, and I feel so honored to be able to have you on here. Todd and I really enjoyed all those years sitting next to you up there in the stands when we had our season passes and listening to your expertise and watching you just write down your stats in that little green notebook that you had, just writing it all down.
No one can
decipher it.
They just can't believe someone can write that small and read it.
I could not believe that either. You were the teeniest, tiniest little.
I've just always been able to write small and where I can read it.
Yeah. Are you still going to the softball fields?
I will go up on Tuesday nights now. Susie and I go because my team that I have had for 40-something years is still playing as a group. Wow. So we go up and visit with them. And
but you don't play though?
No, I had to give it up at 78. I couldn't. I wasn't helping the team at all.
Oh, yeah.
And 70 feet was getting to be a long time getting there.
I'll bet at 78 you were a better softball player than I was.
Todd and
I doubt that.
We had a little group out there. We would see him out there, and I called it old man ball. So, like, anytime they'd play, someone would be pulling a hamstring.
Oh, it's just true, isn't it?
The hazing that went on in that group was so much fun.
It's amazing. And it's great. And that's another reason that I'm imploring for intramural and so forth. Because when we first started that league in '75, we just had all the people we could stand to play, and they kept growing because these people had played a little ball in their life and they wanted to get out there and have a good time. Nowadays, it's hard to get teams to show up, and they'll only be the people that played all the way out.
Yeah.
And not people that said, well, I played Little League when I was small.
Yeah.
I can play this game,
Yeah.
which they can if they want to.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a
But-
game. It's supposed to be fun.
But it's
right?
always funny because I keep trying to warn them, those that come back after a few years and hadn't played, they want to get out there and play as a 20-year-old. And like you say, the next week, those muscles just tie up and fall on your face, and they're through for the season. I'm telling you, got to take it easy. And
Well,
they won't do it.
yeah. No, you get carried away out there.
Macho man.
It's easy to because
Yeah.
you're in the spirit of the game.
Yeah. Well, I played on the Covered Dishes, which was a Methodist church team. Yeah. And I've learned some very valuable lessons. One is, which is I'm a better runner than I'm a softball player for sure. I did one season with them and I loved it. I had a great time, but I am a terrible softball player. Yeah, it was fun.
But you can be terrible and enjoy that game.
Yeah, as long as you have the right attitude. Yeah.
I was the one in the stands hazing everybody too,
I'm sure
even
you
our
were.
own team.
I'm sure you were. Yeah.
You got to have those too.
Yeah,
That's
right. Well, Coach, what's next for you?
Well, I guess 6 feet under one of these days.
No, don't say that.
just
no.
I don't know. I'll keep doing bus driving until I tell them I've got one more year on my contract. That's before you have to go into that
the testing
again and so
Yeah.
forth. But and I'll probably go through that just in case they need somebody. But my wife and I don't travel. And she just can't. She just goes nuts trying to when we get in the car and having to negotiate 35 to go to Belton,
No kidding.
where our kids are.
That's why I see you at HEB all the time because that's about as far as she's going to go.
That's right. Yeah.
She's like, that's your
she's
outing.
hating it now because we're having to go into Austin for the doctor's appointments
Oh,
and so forth.
goodness.
And the driving part.
There's a lot to be said though for being at peace just where you are, right?
Yes,
not
I
feeling like you
guarantee
have
you.
to go all the time.
I agree. I just never have given it much thought. I've just enjoyed what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so that's all I want.
You know
Well,
what?
and that's really obvious that you enjoy it. You love this community.
And you may not have started out here in Dripping Springs, but man, this sure is your home. And Dripping Springs is better because of you. Absolutely.
agree.
You and Susie are just a staple in this.
Agree.
Well,
in this
I know
town.
she is. She's put up with a lot in her lifetime to
Hey,
be with me.
a coach's wife is not an easy life.
Yeah.
So
we're
for sure.
coming Sunday. We're coming up on 60.
Jeez.
Oh,
Wow.
happy
Congratulations.
anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Well, this was great. I love this. Thank you so much for coming
Well,
in, Coach.
I hope I did you some good.
You
did.
did great. This has been a wonderful
So blessed that you're here.
experience.
Such
So,
an honor. Such an honor.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
This show is brought to you in part by the Mallett Integrity Team, serving Dripping Springs, Austin, and the surrounding areas of Central Texas since 2004. When you need the best real estate advice and service, give them a call at 512-829-2062 or email them at mallettintegrityteam.com.
Thanks for listening.
If you have comments or feedback, please email us at mallettandmichelle@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Mallett and Michelle.
Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Please follow us and leave a review.
Thanks again for listening.